I'm Alicja Caputa. I'm from the Institute of Geophysics, Polish Academy of Science, and I would like to say you a little bit about earthquakes, and I would like to say things which probably won't be said during the geography classes. First of all, what is worth to mention, what is seismology, because this is the science which investigates earthquakes, which investigate elastic waves which are propagating through the earth. And this is what we seismologists exactly do. We investigate those waves. Those waves are creating in the seismic source, so we call it hypocenter, which is located mostly on the fault plane. Fault is it's a discontinuity in the rock mass. It's a plane where the rocks can move along it, and in that situation, when the rocks moves along the fault, the elastic energy is released, and it propagates through the earth, through the crust, exactly like seismic waves. And this is what we investigate in our work. It is also worth to mention that a hypocenter is located in the ground, in the rocks, and above, exactly above the hypocenter, we have a point which we call epicenter. And if you ever saw some maps where the earthquakes were marked, these dots were exactly epicenters of seismic events. Those what we exactly measure are seismic waves, of course, but how we measure it? We use seismometers, or before we use seismographs, which detect the seismic waves and detect this ground motion. And here we have a short movie. I hope you will see it. And this movie exactly shows how seismograph works. It is a mass on the strain, and we can see that it moves when seismic waves comes, and it's like draw those seismic waves on the piece of paper, and this piece of paper, this is a seismogram. This is exactly the graphical output from the seismograph, and these seismograms now in digital form, of course. Earlier on the paper we used in our investigations. And here is also some scheme of a seismograph, how it works. And what we exactly detect on this seismogram. So what this exactly on the piece of paper are? Of course, this is a seismic waves. We have a lot of different kind of seismic waves, but the most important for seismology, there are three different types of waves. We have primary waves. So we call it P wave from primary, and this is the waves which are detected on the seismograms as a first. We have also S waves. This is a secondary wave, so this is the S in the name, and they are different. They have different velocity, so they have different places on this seismogram. And we have also surface waves, which because P waves and S waves are propagating like in the rocks, through the rocks, and surface waves are propagating parallel to the surface. So it propagates like on the top of the ground, and that waves are more powerful, and the most powerful, and the most dangerous for us, because this surface waves can cause the biggest damages. As you probably know, most of you probably know from the geography lessons, that our crust, so the external layer of our ground, is divided into tectonic plates. So the piece of crust which are moving, and they are colliding, they are moving away, and exactly this movement causes the biggest and the most dangerous earthquakes in our globe. First of all, we have a situation when the two tectonic plates can collide each other, and we call it subduction, when one tectonic plate is going down below another tectonic plate. This could happen in, for instance, in Japan, in New Zealand, Alaska, Chile. There are the most powerful earthquakes. The second type of boundary, we call it a spreading zone. First were subduction zone. This is a spreading zone, so the place where two tectonic plates are moving away from each other. And there also, of course, this movement also can create some earthquakes. And we can see on this map, because this is a map with epicentral location of earthquakes, we can see that most of them are located exactly in this area of subduction, so around the Pacific Ocean, and we normally call it the Ring of Fire. So this is the Ring of Fire. This is the area around the Pacific Ocean where, except big earthquakes, also volcano activity takes place. In general, we estimate that around 90% of all earthquakes around the globe are caused because of these tectonic movements. In different places, but because of this movement of rock, natural tectonic movements. But what else could happen? Because about tectonic plates you probably heard or will hear during the classes. But there are also many of different factors which could cause this movements, rock movements, and in fact also the earthquakes. What else? First of all, volcanoes. Volcanoes are really powerful, and of course during the explosion we can detect earthquakes, we can detect the movement of the ground. But what is more important, the magma movement beneath the caldera, even before the explosion, also can cause some seismic waves, and we can detect it. And this kind of seismicity is used to forecast the eruption. And this is really important in the area which are dangerous for people because of volcanic activity. And yeah, we can see the location of, here on this map, the location of volcanoes. We can see also the ring of fire around the Pacific Ocean. And we estimated that around 7% of all earthquakes have this volcanic background. Here is seismograms from one of Hawaii volcanoes, and we can easily see here that the day before the eruption we have maybe one or two small seismic events, but in the day of eruption these events there are a lot of those seismic events, there are a lot of shakes, tremors, and so on. This biggest activity, seismic activity, could be a factor which shows us that we are in danger, and could be a factor which helps us to forecast the eruption. And in fact, it could save the seismology, it could save lives in some cases. so I will tell what isn't visible on the slide. But the next thing, the next factor which could cause the earthquakes, or at least the shakes of the ground, there are cavity collapse. Cavity collapse, simply speaking, there are a failure of the roof of caves. We can notice such situation, especially in area made of limestone, where there are a lot of caves inside the ground. We cannot see it, but sometimes we build houses or other buildings on such area, and then some disaster could happen, like here on this movie. This is the movie from Corvette Museum in United States, and please look what happened there. The floor just collapsed into the cave which were below this museum, and 8 of those super expensive Corvettes just fell down into this hole. Yeah, just like that. It's lucky that there was during the night, so nobody gets injured. There were only material losses. But yeah, this is also really dangerous. Yeah, and it looks like though a big hole in the ground and a lot of expensive Corvette in it. And we estimate that this cavity collapse, this roof of caves collapse, can cause, of course, some movement of the ground, and we estimate that this is around 1.5% of all earthquakes that we can register. What next? Next is next factor which could and sometimes cause the earthquakes. This is ISOSTASY. This is probably something new for you, so I will explain. But this is maybe this is a strange name, but it's really easy. This connects with the Ice Age, when our planet and mostly the northern part of our planet was covered by ice sheet, and of course the ice had huge weight, so it pushed our crust down, and after the ice melted, our crust just tried to get back to its previous state. It's like with balloon. I will show you on the balloon. Just imagine that my finger is glacier, and it puts the surface of this is let's say that this is our Earth, and the glacier are pushing our surface of our planet inside. And if I stop pushing, it's just getting back to its previous state. And this is exactly what happened, and what is happening still, because of course balloon is really elastic, our Earth is not, so it takes time to get to its previous state. In fact, it takes thousands of years. But all these movements when crust is trying to relaxate, of course, can cause some shakes, some elastic waves movements, so an earthquake. And this kind of earthquake are maybe not popular, but this is wrong word, but they often happen in area of Scandinavia, for instance, where these movements are quite often, and we can detect a lot of such kind of earthquakes. The biggest had magnitude around 5, so it's not really dangerous, it's not really strong, but it's strong enough that we can feel it, not only measure it on our seismographs, but also feel it. And we estimate that around 0.5% of all earthquakes could be caused by this isostasy movement. So you can easily calculate that what the reasons of earthquakes, which are I just mentioned. It's not 100%. There is 99%. So there is a question: where is this 1%? What else could cause the earthquake? And the answer is quite sad, because we are the next cause of the earthquakes. Humans from hundreds of years try to get the natural resources from the earth, and of course it could also cause some damages, cause some rock movements, and in fact cause earthquakes. First of all, we can cause the earthquake by conventional hydrocarbon extraction. So when we drill the hole in the ground in our crust to pump out the crude oil or gas, of course we change the natural stress field there in the rock, and in case where when there are some faults inside the rocks, we can of course cause that there will be some movement on this fault plains. And this is what happened in Uzbekistan in 870s and at the beginning of 80s. There were three strong, in fact, there were the strongest anthropogenic earthquakes there in Uzbekistan of magnitude 7. Nobody gets hurt, nobody dies there, but the destroyed was huge. And the same situation was in California in early 80s, where few towns were totally destroyed by the earthquake caused exactly by human after hydrocarbon extraction. Next, what can cause the earthquake is unconventional hydrocarbon extraction. This is a little bit different way of getting out the gas and oil, because the gas and oil hydrocarbons are trapped in the rock. So we have to destroy this rock first to get it out of there, and we use this is called a fracturing. This is probably a new word for you, but fracturing is it's a pumping inside the ground the water in big pressure, which destroys the rocks, where is the gas or oil, and then we can get pumped out this hydrocarbon with this water outside on the ground, and we can use it. And of course, this can cause big damages inside the ground. So of course, it can also cause some earthquakes, some ground movements, and this is what exactly happened in Oklahoma. We can see here on this nice plot that the natural seismicity of Oklahoma during the 30 years was not even 900 small events during this 35 years exactly. And after in that area unconventional hydrocarbon extraction started, we have huge amount and big increase of those seismicity, even thousands of events, the weak events, but they were there, 1,000 of events per year. So it's a huge amount. There is more than 3 or 4 seismic events, 3 or 4 earthquakes per day. So this is really dangerous. And the next, our activity, which could cause the earthquakes, is geothermal energy production. Geothermal energy production is really nice for us because the costs are not so big. we just pumped the cold water inside the ground, inside the rocks, and the water is getting hotter. It's even almost boils there in the hot rocks because of geothermal properties of those rocks in some areas. Of course, not everywhere, but in some areas it is possible. And then we pump out this hot water. We can use it to heat our flats or whatever. And this is also very dangerous because, again, we ingurate into the rock mass. And the best example of this inguration is Basel in Switzerland, where there was a lot of seismic events, quite small, but the strongest one was of magnitude 3.4. So it was maybe not dangerous, but it was felt by people there. And in fact, there was a huge project of geothermal power plant, but they had to stop it because of the protest and because of big threat of seismicity damages and seismic activity. And there were a lot. There were big losses, big money in money, of course, because the company had to stop their project. Next, and I think for me the most important feature which can cause the earthquakes is mining. This is what I'm dealing with every day, so the mining seismicity. And this is the oldest, in fact, anthropogenic feature which could cause earthquakes, because we excavate some rocks or some minerals or gemstones from thousands of years. And in fact, this seismicity, this seismic event which are caused by mining, it's not for us on the ground. It's not a big deal because they're not strong. In many cases, we cannot even feel it. But this is really dangerous for people who are inside the mines, for the miners. And the most danger are the rock bursts, so which are associated, which are caused by the seismicity, by seismic events. And rock burst, it's simply saying the failure of rocks inside the mining path of the mining or the mining shifts. And this is super dangerous for people who are working there. And such dangerous accident took place in Poland in 2016. It was one of the biggest mining tragedies here in Poland, where 8 miners died after the earthquakes. It was not so strong. It was magnitude 4. So above, it was felt by people above, but not very strong. But inside the mine, there were huge rock fails, huge rock bursts, and 8 miners died because of that. And you can see the photo how the mining path looked after that. It was totally closed by solid rock. Okay, next, what can cause some earthquake, human activity, is CO2 sequestration. This is also probably something new for you, and in fact, this is quite a new activity, and we have a lot of data from those sites where sequestration is going on. But in a short way, this is the putting inside the ground the CO2 to not put it into the atmosphere. So we are trying, of course, to lower the greenhouse effect. So there is an idea to put CO2 into the ground, and of course, like it was in case of geothermal energy production, if we put anything with a big pressure inside the ground, of course, it could change the field there, and of course, it could cause some earthquakes and some rock movement. But the next what is, I think, more important, which could cause more damages and is more dangerous, is dams and water reservoirs, which people create on rivers, building dams on the rivers. Of course, when we build some water reservoir, there is a huge mass of water there. And of course, this huge mass, like this ice sheet during the ice age, it pushes on the ground. And if inside the ground there are some faults which were inactive before, but this huge mass of water could activate this fault, and of course there could happen some movement of rock, and then of course some earthquake. And here is an example of it in India, and in the late 60s there were the most, maybe not the biggest, but the most tragic anthropogenic earthquakes there, where exactly the water reservoir was built on the river, and beneath that there was inactive fault which gets active, and there was an earthquake of magnitude 6.6, so it was quite strong, strong enough to destroy this dam. And the water from those dams, from those water reservoir, destroyed almost whole city. 180 people died there, and the damages were really big. And this was the most tragical earthquake, which in fact we create. We as a society, as humans. What else could what our activities could cause the earthquakes? Of course, huge construction like Taipei 101. I read an article that after they built this huge skyscrapers. This skyscraper, there were two strong events, 3.8, 3.2, so it was totally felt by people there. And this is because it was located above an inactive fault, which just gets active after this huge wave of this building. What else? And this is, I think, the most important. Also, nuclear bombs, which are detonated around the globe, can cause the earthquakes, and we can also measure it. And it is worth to mention that these seismograms from the nuclear bombs are totally different from those from natural earthquakes. So we can easily check if someone is trying to or testing their bomb, like North Korea did it last year, and this is quite easy to detect such human activity. And the last one, and this is more like curiosity for you, but also football games could cause some earthquakes. This is the information from 2013, where there was a huge and very important football game in Seattle, And after this match, seismologists detect a small earthquake. It was really small. It was magnitude between 1 and 2, so we couldn't feel it. But it was detected on seismogram after this game. So we can also, by only jumping and singing, we can also cause some little one, but always an earthquake. So thank you very much. This is for me, I think, all what I would like to say. I hope that you learned some new things, because I can imagine that there were a lot of new things for you there.